So, you ever feel like you're right there, right on the edge of something big, something you really want,
Yeah.
but then that little voice just pipes up, the one whispering doubts, making you wonder if it's all just too hard.
Oh, absolutely. Or maybe you've even walked away from things before.
Right, thinking, ah, it's not for me, but then later you look back and, you wonder, what if?
Mm-hmm. We've all felt that temptation to give up sometimes,
Mm.
like right before things might have turned around.
It's that really common moment, isn't it, where the initial buzz kind of wears off and you hit the real challenges.
It is. And it's fascinating, really, to see how some people push through that friction, how they manage to stay the course, while others, well, they decide to change direction.
Well, today we're diving deep into some really powerful ideas that might help us understand that and maybe even overcome that tendency to, throw in the towel too soon.
We're digging into Angela Duckworth's work, Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance.
Exactly. And think of this less like a lecture, more like a focused coaching session, really, designed to help you, our listener, keep your sights set on those long-term goals that genuinely matter to you.
Yeah, trying to unpack what it really takes to stick with things, to move those ambitions from just dreams into, well, into reality.
So one of the first big ideas Duckworth talks about is this equation. It seems simple, but it's powerful. Talent times effort equals skill.
Right. And then she adds another layer. Skill times effort equals achievement.
It really makes you stop and think about how we usually value success, doesn't it?
Totally. We put such a huge emphasis on talent, like it's this fixed thing you either have or you don't.
But this equation kind of flips that. Talent might give you a starting point, sure, but it's the effort that actually builds the skill.
And then crucially, it's applying more effort to that skill you've built that leads to real achievement. Effort counts twice.
It puts effort right in the driver's seat, not just once, but twice.
Exactly. And the great thing about effort is, well, it's something we can actually control and cultivate. Duckworth brings up Charles Darwin as a kind of a surprising example of this.
Darwin, yeah, you think genius, but it's humbling, isn't it? To hear he didn't see himself that way at all.
Not really. He described himself as, what was it, not quick of apprehension, having a hazy memory.
Struggling with abstract thought, even. And yet this is the man who completely changed how we see life on Earth.
So what did he say was the key? Not some amazing brain power.
No, it was his love of science, which he said never faded, and a good deal of perseverance, just sticking with it.
It really shows how dedication can just completely outweigh what we might think of as natural talent.
But it's funny how our gut reaction often goes the other way, isn't it? Towards admiring talent.
Yeah, there's research on this. Psychologist Chia-Hung Tse looked into this bias. She did studies with professional musicians.
Oh, right, the pianist study.
That's the one. They evaluated pianists, same performance records, but one was described as a natural, the other as a striver who worked incredibly hard.
And even though the musicians would say effort is important.
They consistently rated the natural talent as better. It's like we have this subconscious pull towards the idea of effortless genius.
And she found the same thing in business too, right?
People were shown two entrepreneurs, one framed as naturally gifted, the other as a hard worker, but with like more experience and capital backing them.
And they still favored the natural.
Yeah, they're more likely to bet on the success of the natural talent, even value their advice more. It's a real bias.
Just highlights this deep-seated thing we have for the seemingly effortless. Makes you wonder how often we underestimate sheer, consistent effort, maybe even in ourselves.
Which brings us right to Duckworth's definition of grit itself. It's not just about working hard in short bursts.
No, it's about sustained passion and sustained perseverance, both together aimed at long-term goals.
That combination is absolutely key. It's not just grinding away at something you hate.
Or bouncing from one exciting new thing to the next when the shine wears off.
Exactly. Grit is that sticking power for something that genuinely matters to you, even when it's slow going, even when you hit roadblocks.
Duckworth uses the story of Jeffrey Gettleman, the journalist. His goal was to become the East Africa bureau chief for the New York Times.
And that took him, what, a decade?
Yeah, a whole decade. That wasn't just a whim, that was a deep, long-term ambition.
And he didn't just wish for it. He was strategic. Every career move.
From his university paper.
Right. Then smaller papers, getting experience in Atlanta, then as a war correspondent.
Each step was deliberate, building towards that one specific high-level goal. A 10-year marathon, really.
Driven by that clear passion, which connects to another useful idea Duckworth presents. The goal hierarchy.
Okay, how does that work? Like levels?
Kind of like a pyramid. At the bottom, you have your low-level goals, the everyday tasks, the things on your to-do list.
Okay, like making calls, writing drafts, practicing stales.
Exactly. Those feed into your mid-level goals, the projects or objectives you're working towards right now. Maybe finishing a report, learning a piece of music.
And at the very top.
That's your high-level goal. Your ultimate concern, your driving passion, the why behind it all. Like Gettleman's goal of becoming bureau chief.
So grit isn't just about mindlessly checking off those daily tasks.
No, not at all. Real grit comes when those lower-level actions feel connected, when they clearly serve that bigger, top-level passion.
When you see how the small stuff fits into the big picture.
Precisely. That's what fuels perseverance when things get tedious or difficult. It reminds me a bit of Warren Buffett's prioritization method.
Oh, the famous one. List 25 goals, circle the top 5.
And then...
And then the crucial part, the other 20, become your avoid-at-all-cost list.
Exactly. It's ruthless focus. Grit involves knowing what not to put your energy into, just as much as knowing what to pursue, directing your finite resources strategically.
Okay, that makes sense. So the big question then is, are we just born gritty, or can we actually, develop it?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is it fixed, or can we grow it?
What does the research say?
Well, there seems to be a genetic component. Twin studies suggest some heritability, maybe around 37% for the perseverance part, 20% for the passion part. So genes play a role, yes.
But that still leaves a lot of room.
A lot of room. The majority, in fact, seems influenced by our experiences, our environment, the choices we make. There isn't some single grit gene deciding everything.
Okay, so that's encouraging. If we aren't naturally super gritty, we can work on it. How? Let's start with passion. How do we find that thing that keeps us going?
Well, Duckworth's work suggests interest often doesn't just appear out of nowhere while you're sitting and thinking. It tends to grow through interaction with the world.
Like trying things out.
Yeah. Think of Julia Child, famously had zero interest in cooking at first.
Right, until that amazing Soul Meunier experience in France.
Exactly. That sparked something. But even then, it wasn't instant lifelong passion. It took years of exploring, learning, messing up, having more good experiences.
It took her, 40 years, she said, to really find that passion besides cats and her husband.
Right. It's a great reminder that finding what you love can be a process of discovery, not some lightning bolt moment.
And Jeff Bezos said something similar, didn't he? About not being able to force an interest.
You kind of have to let your interests choose you by being open and trying things.
Okay, so discover interest through action. What's next for building grit?
Deliberate practice. This is huge in Duckworth's framework. And it's very different from just, putting in the hours.
How is it different?
It's about focused attention, setting really specific goals for what you want to improve, actively seeking out feedback, knowing where you're going wrong, and then repetition, but with reflection. Trying again, tweaking, refining.
Like the spelling bee champions she studied.
Exactly. Thousands of hours spent not just reading words, but analyzing roots, practicing specific tricky spellings, getting tested.
Even the ones who like spelling still did that intense, focused work. That Carrie Close kid, 3,000 hours.
That's the kind of focused effort that builds mastery. And it's important to distinguish this kind of practice, which can be hard work, from flow.
Flow being that state where you're totally absorbed and it feels almost effortless.
Right. Deliberate practice is often the necessary, sometimes difficult work that leads to being able to achieve flow during performance. Think about Will Shortz and his puzzles.
The crossword editor.
Yeah, his whole life has been this engagement with puzzles, constantly learning, finding new angles, pushing himself. That sustained passion fueled by continuous practice. And interestingly, studies show grittier people tend to change careers less often.
They dig deeper where they are.
Seems like it. They stick with it and build mastery over time.
Okay, so effort is key. Find passion through exploration. Build skill with deliberate practice. But what about when we fail? Because, we all do. How does grit help then?
That's where hope comes in. Duckworth talks about hope as a kind of perseverance, especially when things get tough. Like that Japanese proverb.
You fall down 7 times, get up 8.
Exactly. Grit isn't about avoiding failure. It's about how you respond, your willingness to get back up. And this ties directly into Carol Dweck's work on mindset.
Growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Right. Believing your abilities can be developed through hard work, that's a growth mindset, versus a fixed mindset where you think your talent or intelligence is just static.
And a growth mindset is basically the engine for resilience, for grit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you believe you can learn from mistakes, setbacks become learning opportunities, not proof that you can't do it. It's interesting. Research even suggests that parents making a huge fuss over mistakes can actually push kids towards a fixed mindset.
Wow. So our perspective on failure is really critical.
Hugely. Look at Scott Barry Kaufman's story Duckworth shares. Labeled early on as not gifted based on tests.
But he didn't let that define him.
No, he found areas that valued his actual strengths and just worked incredibly hard, developing his abilities through effort. He achieved huge academic success. Initial labels aren't destiny.
It's inspiring. And what about fostering grit in kids, or maybe even in our teams?
Duckworth stresses this blend of high standards and supportive love. Real tough love, she suggests, isn't just tough. It has to come from a place of genuine care and wanting the best for that person's growth. It's selfless.
That makes sense. High expectations combined with unwavering support. Okay, so let's pull this all together as we wrap up this deep dive.
We've seen effort can really trump talent.
Yeah, and that grit itself is this powerful mix, sustained passion, plus that relentless perseverance for things that matter long term.
And crucially, it's not fixed. We can grow it by exploring interest, committing to that focused, deliberate practice.
And by cultivating a growth mindset fueled by hope that helps us get back up after we fall down.
So with all that in mind, we want to shift this into a bit of a coaching moment for you, our listener.
Exactly. A chance to connect these ideas directly to your own life, your own goals.
Think about something right now. Maybe something you're feeling tempted to give up on. Or maybe something you've been putting off, starting because, well, you're afraid you might fail.
Yeah, take a second to bring that to mind. Now, thinking about that specific thing, what is one small, and I mean small, gritty action you can commit to taking today?
Doesn't have to be huge, not a monumental shift.
No, just one concrete step forward. Could be sending one email, making one phone call, doing 30 minutes of focused work, even just sketching out a plan. Something tangible.
Just a single step fueled by that idea of consistent effort and maybe a little bit of belief that you can learn and grow.
Because that's really the essence of it, isn't it? Cultivating grit isn't usually about some massive dramatic change overnight.
No, it's about stringing together those small, persistent efforts, making those daily choices to just keep moving, especially when it feels hard.
And it's that steady perseverance, driven by something you genuinely care about, that really adds up over the long haul. That's what unlocks potential and helps us reach those goals that maybe once felt impossible.